Hi everyone and welcome to the session on KubeVirt, using which we can run a VM workload on top of Kubernetes. This is going to be an intro session along with some demos. My name is Nipendra Khare and I am founder of CloudRilla, which provides training and consulting in the area of containers, Kubernetes and other technologies. I authored Intro to Kubernetes course on EDX for CNCF, which has been taken by more than 150K participants around the world. I am also a CNCF ambassador and certified Kubernetes administrator as well. I wrote a book on Docker a few years back and currently runs an online meetup group on Kubernetes and cloud data technologies. In this session, we would see what is KubeVirt and why we need it. We would then look at its architecture and see the complete workflow to create a VM instance on Kubernetes with KubeVirt. We would then see how we can access that VM instance which we have created and see how we can attach storage and network to it. Along the way, we would also see some demos. So, what is KubeVirt? At a high level, KubeVirt is a Kubernetes controller which helps us to run VM workload along with the container workload. Now let us see why we need KubeVirt. You might have containerized most of the applications and running them on Kubernetes, but there is some workload which we cannot containerize, or maybe we do not want to containerize them because of some compliance reason, right? So we would need to run those VMs alongside with our containers. And there are definitely solutions like Overt, OpenStack, which you can have to run the VMs. But why not run them together? Because we now know how to manage containers at scale. We have all the infra and all the control plane and everything for that. Then why not manage the VM along with the same control plane what we have for containers? And that is what KubeVirt would bring in. With KubeVirt, we can have a single control plane to manage both container and VMs. We would unify our infra, compute, network and storage for that. As now we have very mature tooling for logging and monitoring for containers for Kubernetes, we can leverage that same for our VMs as well. With KubeVirt, we are going to converge our infra and the workflow. Like as you can see, with KubeVirt, we are going to have the same hardware what we are using for Kubernetes now. We can leverage that same thing to run the VMs as well. So we have the similar infra, maybe bare metal. We would have installed some OS and then configured Kubernetes on that. Then on the same cluster, we can have the KubeVirt controller, which can manage our VM workload. For the workflow, we know that okay, we have the objects like pods, deployment, and so on to manage our container workload. Similarly, we can create a virtual machine resource to create a VM instance. Like here, we can see that to create a VM instance, we would define the object like the way we do for pods, something like that, where we have API version, kind, namespace, spec, and so on. This would create a VM instance for me. Let us now pay attention to the architecture of KubeVirt here. So deploy any application, we definitely create an application pod which runs a container for our application. Similarly, in the case of KubeVirt, we are going to create a pod. Okay, that might look surprising to you, but yes. With KubeVirt, when we deploy any VM instance, we would create a pod for that, and that pod would manage our VM. Let's see how it works out. So here we have our YAML file for our virtual machine creation. So you can see there is a kind called virtual machine. In that we have defined our spec and so on. Now this particular YAML file sent to API server, which would then connect to the Vert controller. The word controller is the controller to manage VMs. I'll talk about one more stuff here. So, virtual machine object stores a virtual machine instance as a template. Like we know that if we want to create replica set, the replica set creates the pod templates, right? So, or replica set creates pods using the template what we would pass it to. Similarly here, as we create virtual machine, it is going to instantiate virtual machine instances. So we have this word controller running in our control plane. Now the word controller would create a pod to launch a VM. The way it does it, the request would be sent to the kubelet which runs on our nodes to create a VM instance. To create a VM instance via the pod. So what happens as the word controller has sent a request to launch a VM process, kubelet is going to create a respective pod for that, which would eventually launch our VM instance. Now on each node where we run kubelet, you would also be running a daemon set pod called word handler, which tells that word launcher how do I want to configure that VM instance. So here it is. The word handler would instruct the word launcher to start a VM instance using the QEMU. Let us now see this process happening in a demo so that we understand this thing better. Okay. So here I have a cluster which has KubeVirt installed already. Let me just show you that. Yeah, so as we can see that we have running some of the objects for our KubeVirt here. So we have this word handler running as a daemon set. We have different pods running for different objects here and so on. Let it be. We're now going to create a namespace. So let me do a kubectl namespace creation for our demo purpose. So we now have a demo namespace here, and here we have a YAML configuration file to launch our VM instance. Let me show you that. So here we can see that we have a kind virtual machine. We would give the name for our VM instance, and if I come down further, I am defining the number of CPUs to it, and then the memory request I am giving here, and that's all as of now. I can go over details in later. So let me for now go ahead and apply this particular virtual machine creation in the namespace of demo. So this would create the thing which I mentioned earlier. So let's look at kubectl get all minus n demo. Okay, so here it is. So we kind of requested to create a virtual machine instance. This created a virtual machine instance object. So here we are saying create a virtual machine for me. This would internally trigger to create a virtual machine instance, and as we can see that we have a word launcher running, so which is here. So we are running a word launcher on the node, which is going to run our VM instance. That's how it is going to be. Let's go over one more time here. So we create a virtual machine object. The request is sent to the API server, which would talk to our word controller, which would then create a pod on the node via the API server. So we launch a word launcher pod here, and this word launcher pod would be configured by the word handler running on each node. This would then configure the VM instance for us. Right, so that's the overall process. And if I look at kubectl get VMs in the namespace of demo, you would see that we are running a VM instance there. Okay, so yeah, and if you look at kubectl get pod, that would I think we've already seen that. Let's just look at that. Let me add option here -o void. Yeah, so as you can see that we have a what launcher for running. We have the IP for that. It is in the running state and all good here, right? So all of our traffic would be kind of going through this particular VM or this particular port to our VM instance. Okay, so that's good here. Okay, now once we have the VM running, let us see how we can access that VM instance. So let me just trigger a tmux here then first. Okay, so here it is. So let me let me discuss something more about accessing here. So we can access the VM via the CLI or via the console access we can do, or we can of course access our GUI with the VNC kind of a setup. So here we have a VM running, and we would currently use the wordctl CLI, using which we can access the console of that VM instance. And we can also use a KubeVirt plugin for kubectl, using which we can directly run kubectl commands and access the VM instance also. As I have not installed that right now, I'm just going to use the wordctl command line to access the console of our VM instance there. So let me go ahead and do that. So here we have the wordctl command. I'm now going to run wordctl console. Let me first get my VM instance name here. Okay, I will try now in the wordctl CLI console, and then I would give my VM instance name here and the namespace. So as you can see that I am now connected to the VM instance there. It is creating some of the stuff which I have done in the post setup there. So let it happen. Let's wait for a few seconds maybe. Okay, let me do a login here. Yeah. So as you can see that we can now log into the VM instance which we created. Let me look at its number of CPUs here. So as you can see that we have 0 and 1 CPU here. This means that it is a 2 CPU system. And if I look at its kind of memory configuration, it's about 2 GB of RAM. So all looks good here. So yeah, this is how we can access the VM console or the terminal there. But of course, we can use the VNC to access the GUI also. Okay, now let's talk about briefly how we can create some volumes and have the consistent state of our VM instance there. And also we can see how we can use different other kind of storage there. So I believe everybody is familiar that how does the volume management works in Kubernetes. So we need to first define the volume, like here we are defining the volume with a driver. And once we have the volume created, then we would attach that volume into our pod, or in this case VM here. So here we are saying that I'm going to create a volume called container volume with the driver called container disk, and here is some image name there, and this would get mounted into the VM which we're going to create now as a disk and with the word IO driver there. So let's start to look at our configuration, what we have for our instance there. Yeah, so here it is. So let me come down a bit down here. Yeah. So what we are saying is I'm going to use a volume, and this might look familiar to you. It's like we are kind of going to create a Docker image. We take a Docker image and then trying to create a pod from that. That is what it is. So what we have in this case is we are using a driver called container disk here. With container disk, what I can do is I can create a Docker image or a container image which we have been familiar with the VM image. So we will take a VM image, put into a Docker file and create an image, and this image then can be pushed to your Docker Hub or any registry. And then once you have this image pushed up there, we can then use it as a volume, and this volume we can mount as our disk for the VM. So what's happening here is we are going to take that container image, a disk, and create an instance from that for our VM. Okay, so that's what's happening here. That's how you can attach a volume to your VM instance there. And of course, there are different other kinds of volume drivers are supported, which you can use to create the VM instance there. So one thing I would like to highlight very special here is something called as CDI, which is Containerized Disk Importer, using which we can create PVCs for our VM disk. Yeah, sounds interesting. So what happens with this is we can take our VM image, which can be an ISO or kick-out image. We would then create or export it into a PVC with the help of a Containerized Disk Importer program. And once we have that particular VM image as a PVC, we can then attach that PVC to our VM instance. So what's going to happen is, as an administrator, you're going to kind of take different images from your users and so on, and then you can import them into the CDI. And with the CDI, while creating the images or while creating the VMs, we can attach a PVC created from that image disk. So that way, you have the disk as a persistent storage, and you can use them to create your instances. Hope this makes sense. So let's kind of yeah, that's about it. Okay, let's talk about a bit of networking. How we can create different kind of interfaces for our VM. So again here, we are kind of creating a VM instance. Now we can define different network types, which are pod or a different, or if you want to attach a secondary network to it, we have a network called Multus, which we can use. So we will create different networks, or we can call them as backends, and then we can create interfaces which attach to them. So we can have interfaces like Bridge, SRIOV, Masquerade, and so on, using which we can create few front ends and point them to the network what we have. So here, if you look at what we are doing is we are kind of saying that, okay, I want to have a network of the pod network type, and we are going to use the bridge interface to attach to our VM instance. So let's go to our VM instance here, and you would see we would have an IP address also. This IP address is given to us using that bridge. Now, as we are here, let me talk about one more good feature about this KubeVirt here. Like here, we are going to use another volume called cloud, another volume driver using the cloud init no cloud driver, using which I can pass the cloud init configuration file. Like in this case, we are saying that, okay, as you start the VM instance, you're going to create a volume from this cloud init file and mount it into our VM instance. So what's happening is, I'm going to create a VM instance, and then once the machine is booted, or the VM is booted, we are going to run this cloud init configuration file, in which I set my root password, and here, very interestingly, I am now creating a Kubernetes instance on that. So what we are saying is, okay, I'm going to spin up a VM instance, and in that VM instance, I'm going to create a Kubernetes cluster. So this kind of gives you a way to create Kubernetes in Kubernetes kind of a setup, which is very powerful. So think about the possibility here. Let's say your developer needs throwaway cluster all the time to do the testing and so on. So you can kind of configure KubeVirt in environment and then create these Kubernetes cluster using the VMs what you have now, which can be thrown away once the work is done. So there are many use cases like this which you can use for your purpose. And we really have a practical use case for that at Cloudwiga. So what's happening now is, as we deliver trainings to our students, they want us to work on. So with KubeVirt, we're going to kind of enable them to have a Kubernetes cluster as they do our course. So the workflow is going to be, the student comes to our portal. Okay, it says that, okay, I want to have a lab environment, and as is the lab environment needed, you're going to spin up a VM instance and create a Kubernetes cluster the way I showed you. And once it's there, as you can see that, hopefully I would have it here. I'm inside the VM, and inside the VM I have configured a Kubernetes cluster. So we have a Kubernetes cluster outside, which creates a VM, and in that I have one more Kubernetes cluster for our playground. Hope this looks interesting. Okay, there are a few other features which I would like to kind of say that how a VM can use the resources from the host system. Like VM guest can use the civil manager or new affinity from our host. It can we can request a CPU and the memory for our VM instances. We can do the device pass through of to our VMs from the host system. So all these things are possible as well with KubeVirt. And there are a few other notable features like we can do live migrations of our VM. So if we have a KubeVirt cluster with multiple machines that supports KubeVirt, we can enable the live migration. We can have support for huge pages. We can do monitoring. We kind of get the native support of RBAC of Kubernetes. We can put network policies in place. Or we can do dedicated CPU location to our VMs, and all these things are possible. So as now we can see with the KubeVirt, the possibilities are endless, and we can now safely run our VM and the container workload on the similar hardware, which is going to really save a lot of cost, a lot of money, and the time for our developers and for ourselves as well. Thanks for tuning in today to learn about KubeVirt. If you have any questions, feel free to reach to me via email or on different social media like Twitter. I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.